Ready when you are.
Good evening. This is the Walpole Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Tonight is March 6th, 2019. It is 7 o'clock, and we have a few cases before us tonight. The first one is Foxhill Drive, case number 2618, seeking a special permit. This is for a storage unit complex that has been proposed. We went through this. The only thing we had on this was questions of the parking. That was resolved, and this was a continued case. So, Mr. Brady, go ahead.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Lee, ladies and gentlemen of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Walpole. Thomas Brady on behalf of Highland Development Ventures LLC. On February 21st, we were before the Planning Board, and we got site plan approval and our two special permits by unanimous vote. John drafted the decision, it's been reviewed, and he filed it with the town clerk on Monday, so we're currently in the 20-day appeal period. So the final plans are there. In the last meeting, you were waiting on the final plans, and then you were going to close the meeting, and then I guess you'll vote at the end of the night tonight.
Okay. And on the final plans, do they change? How did they change from what the zoning board had before us?
One of the main changes was they got rid of the gate in the back. That was a request of the police department and the fire department, so that was done. But for the most part, everything else was the same.
Okay, and that doesn't change us because we were looking at the parking. Do we have an updated set of plans that we can reference in our decision?
They have been filed. I believe John has seen them, so they're at, I believe they sent a copy to Amy and the planning board. So they're off the revised plans in town hall. So
Okay.
they are there.
Okay. Do you have those plans?
I got one for conservation, I didn't realize it was for zoning as well, but I have them in the office.
Okay.
Just let me know if there's anything. I'll get you the PDF right away.
Okay. Only because we're going to need to have the revision and the date number for the plan to reference in our decision.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Good. Okay, at this time, Attorney Brady, do you want to close the hearing?
Yes, I ask you to close the hearing.
Okay. Could I have a motion to, this is just to close the hearing?
So,
Okay.
got it.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Rick, second by Jane. Okay, any further discussion? And this is just to close the hearing. All those in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and one abstain.
Thank you very much.
Okay, oh, okay, and then we'll take the vote later tonight.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, next one we have is 2285 Providence Highway. And this is the gas station. The applicant came before us looking to revise it and has since requested to withdraw without prejudice. We have a letter dated February 20th for case number 2418 Titanium Group, 28285 Providence Highway. Says, please accept this correspondence as formal request to withdraw without prejudice the applicant's application for a special permit and variances in regards with the above referenced matter. Okay, so we can accept that, and could I have a motion to accept or withdraw without prejudice case, we have a case number on this?
2418.
2418, 2285 Providence Highway.
So moved.
Okay. Do I need to close the hearing first? Okay, okay. So we have a motion to withdraw without prejudice.
Second.
Okay, second by Bob. All those in favor of allowing the applicant to withdraw without prejudice, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, one abstention. Okay. So, tonight we have the start of a comprehensive permit under Mass General Laws 40B. And I'll read the legal notice. Yeah, we got a lot of people here first.
It's on the cover.
Right on.
Right
Oh, there we go.
No, it's right, yeah.
Okay. Okay, this is the legal notice. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the Town of Walpole will hold a public hearing in the Richard Stillman Community Room of the Walpole Police Department on Wednesday, March 6th at 7 p.m. on an application from Wall Street Development Company, Burns Ave Development LLC, case number 0519, with respect to property located at Burns Ave, map 20, parcels 119, 136, and 137, Walpole, Massachusetts, zoning district GR. The application is for a comprehensive permit pursuant to Mass General Laws 40B, Section 20 through 23, as amended, to allow the construction of 36 townhouse condominium homes. The application may be viewed at the Office of the Board of Appeals. That was also in the Walpole Times for the legal notice. So let's just go over a few things on 40B. This is a application for affordable housing, and what my goal for tonight is to open the hearing. Is the applicant here? Okay, and you are?
Lou Petrozzi for Wall Street Development.
Okay. So we're going to have the applicant introduce the project. I expect that he'll take about 10 or 15 minutes to give an overview of the project. We'll then have comments from the neighbors, and depending how many are here, they'll have as much time as necessary. I've got some guidance from the Zoning Board of Appeals on a project like this. First, whenever submitting information, it's best if it's submitted in writing, so that if you get up and you say something and you want to have follow through, please provide documentation to the Zoning Board for our file and reference later on. A comprehensive permit is a little different than a regular zoning board hearing. The zoning board sits for the other boards in town because the goal is to streamline the process by having one stop here with the zoning board. The applicant does have to go to conservation and possibly Board of Health if there are some Board of Health issues. But the idea of a 40B application is the zoning board sits for the other boards in the town. Conservation will deal with wetland and conservation issues, but if it's applicable, you can bring things up that deal with the zoning and the project. Based on the size and the complexity of the process, the ZBA will be requesting funding from the applicant to conduct an engineering peer review of the project so that we can have not overtax the town engineer on the peer review, although the town engineer has provided some comments already. The ZBA has already requested funds from Massachusetts Housing Partnership for a 40B consultant to help the Zoning Board of Appeals and assist with the decision if one is forthcoming. So that letter went out. John, when did that letter go out?
That letter went out actually last week.
Okay. And one of the key points on a 40B development is the Zoning Board of Appeals cannot impose conditions that would render the project uneconomic, and you can look up the whole definition of uneconomic according to 40B. It's right here as far as what that involves. The applicant must apply for each waiver from the zoning bylaws and explain why such relief is needed for the project. So I'm sure that's listed in the application. The goal of the the comprehensive permit is to streamline the process for the creation of affordable housing in our community. And then the final thing that we will probably try to do tonight is schedule a site visit for the property. That's common in 40B projects, where the zoning board, if members want, go out and actually take a look at the site with the proponent and see exactly what we're talking about out on the site. Okay. So that gives a little bit of overview of how things go on a 40B hearing. So with that, I turn it over to the applicant.
Great, thank you. Is it okay if I set up here, or you wanna?
You know what, why don't you go over there?
Okay, fabulous. Well, good evening. My name is Lou Petrozzi from Wall Street Development Corp. We are the applicant for this project off of Burns Avenue. As previously stated, the project calls for a 36-unit townhouse condominium development that will be split into 7 buildings ranging from 4 units to 6 units in each building. The site is approximately 3.2 acres. It will be serviced by access drive that will come in off of Burns Avenue to a cul-de-sac. The roadway, the cul-de-sac and everything, the infrastructure has been designed according to the fire department's requirements for turning radius for emergency vehicles. The site will be serviced by town water and sewer, sewer will come off of Union Street through an access way into the site. The water will be looped from Burns Avenue. They just recently installed a new water line on Burns Avenue, and we will be continuing that out to Union Street, so the water will be looped for service. The combination of units on the site that are being proposed, these are townhouse units. Each unit will have a 1-car garage. There will be, I think, 10 3-bedroom units, and the balance would be 2-bedroom units. They're 2.5-story buildings, typical wood framing construction. Driveways would be asphalt. The site will also have underground utilities with gas, I believe, is available on the site. And that's pretty much in summary what, an overview of the project. We anticipate that if we continue the meeting to the next time, we'll have our traffic and environmental and other consultants, that engineering, that will answer any questions the board has.
Okay, do board members have any questions? Because I have some, but we'll start with board members.
Not just yet.
Okay, so do you have site control of this, the entire property?
I do.
Okay, the access out to Union Street, what is that?
Well, at this point in time, when we had our first meeting with the town staff, there was a discussion about having emergency construction vehicles enter from Union Street instead of burdening the Burns Avenue neighborhood with construction vehicles. So since we are going to be installing a sewer and water line up that access way, we keep it open for construction vehicles for a period of time. And it also needs to be, permission needs to be granted from the Conservation Commission for that to happen, because it is in what's called a riverfront area. So it's at the discretion of the Conservation Commission to allow that. But in a previous application, they've approved the installation of the sewer and water line and of that part, but it's really kind of for mitigation purposes to avoid disruption to the existing neighborhood on Burns Avenue.
In these units, do you have any lofts?
No,
Okay, so total bedroom count is 82?
I don't have the exact number, but whatever that.
Well, what did you say? You said 10 3-bedroom units and 26 2-bedroom
Yeah,
units?
that sounds about right.
Okay, no, none of these are 1-bedroom?
No.
Good. Okay. Board members, anything? Okay. Okay, with that, what I'd like to do is open it up to the public, if you want to have a seat. Sure. If neighbors have any comments or concerns, the process, this is just the first of the meetings, and you know, what I really wanted tonight was for the applicant to come in, present with their what's being proposed, and then we'll go from here. There's going to be a lot of engineering questions. There's going to be you know, how does this all fit in? So if anybody has any questions or comments, please just identify yourself, and we welcome you. Yeah, come on right up here.
Oh, okay. Okay. Just a quick question. Liz Sparrows, 189 Union Street. Are you able to read into the record any comments from other boards and committees and town departments? Because I know you probably asked for the police,
Oh.
fire, Board of Health.
Yes, and we have a number of comments. Is there something that you wanted
No, I
referenced?
just, I didn't know at what point in the process the neighbors would find out that information.
Okay, so, we have a file on this, case number 0519, and, it's right here, so all those letters are available, in the zoning board of appeals office, so, you can come and take a look at the file at any time.
Okay, so you don't read them into the record, right?
Some of them are rather lengthy,
Okay.
and, you know,
Okay, thank you.
we're going to address everything, but
Okay.
we're not gonna read all the comments, into the record.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not in about a Robert O'Leary precinct 3, but I have been following this, and a lot of documents have come into the zoning board. So this week I tried to simplify why I don't think Mass Housing should even look at this, because they don't have access to their property. And I tried to simplify it. I've already sent a letter out to Mass Housing, and that should have explained it quite well, but I tried to simplify it even more using the applicant's plans themselves. And the applicant's plans themselves actually indicate he does not have access to this property.
Okay, one of the things, if you already heard, I asked if he has site control, so that means he owns the property, and I'd like to hear why you,
He doesn't have access to the property itself.
okay, can you explain?
Well, you've got the acceptance and the taking of Burns Avenue, and it doesn't reach as far as his property at 48, which is nothing more than a transfer of land, and it's always been nothing more than a transfer of land. So he's got to cross over on one side of this 20-foot swath. Burns Ave is 40 feet. So if you kept extending it, you'd have 20 and 20 on each side, which both deeds on each side show that. They show a line right down the middle and 20 feet on both sides. So on one side, you've got 15.29 feet, which has been discussed in prior zoning board hearings and planning board actually back in 66 and 67. And those plans were denied on not this piece of property, but the property in front of it. And it has a lot of information regarding why they did that, and that 15.29 comes into play there. Now on the other side, you've got somebody else's land altogether, another person's land altogether. Now that 15.29 also is owned privately, because it's not a road, it's not a way, and they have not purchased the way either. The applicant has not purchased the way. For example, the 2,000 square feet that you'll see in some of the plans, that has been purchased and repurchased, but it's not a way that they've purchased. But on the opposite side of the road, from the 15.29 feet, there's 95.38 feet, 20 feet wide. That's privately owned land. So you've got 15 feet, 0.29 feet on one side, and 95.38 feet on the other side. They can't get to their land. The most they can get to is that transfer of land, which would be by easement from being there for over 20 years and using it for that long. So they don't have access to the land at all, and their plans show it. And when you look at the 80 feet they keep showing on their plans, you'll notice that it doesn't match up to the deed, which is 100 by 200 or 2,000 square feet, which is what they had purchased to get to this property. But that's just one piece of that. And that's on Plan 1520 of 1987. And that plan matches exactly to the deed. And it says containing 2,000 square feet of land. And the 80.27 feet that they show on all their plans, especially the August 17th, 2017 plan, which is very clear, shows 80.27 feet, and that's contrary to the 100 feet shown on Plan 1520 of 1987, which is the purchase of 2,000 square feet.
Okay, so I'm looking at the plan right now, and this is, I have not seen this before. I did not sit on these hearings. I guess you're referencing previous time. Is the I see here, limit of public way is that what you're talking about?
Well, the public way accepted is 448.61 feet, and taken is 548.61. That's taken. And if you want to look for that, look for book 2648, page 275. I'll hand this over when I sign it, so you'll have that. And this is just a way to simplify why they don't have access to this property. And it's on their own plans. I mean, and just the fact that they've had to purchase this 2,000 square feet, the owner before them and the current owner right now, it indicates they don't have access. And that's on both sides. Just an easement, as far as I can tell, on one side. Now, I could get into more detail of why they should not be able to expand the easement, but we've already been there, and that can come in another letter at another time. But this is just to simplify, they don't have access.
Okay.
So, there are some plans done by Sharon Survey Service and Piling Engineering Company, and they're basically following their own errors throughout. They did not follow the deed. So basically, the applicant is playing off of these errors. But these errors can be proven as wrong fairly easily.
Okay.
So I'm going to sign this, and I'm going to hand it to you.
Great. Okay, yes. Thank you, Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Chairman, board members, Kathy Campbell, 35 Burns Ave, Christopher Campbell, 35 Burns Ave. May I pass these out? If I may, for a brief moment, this is a current survey with 35 Burns Avenue. And this is 31 Burns Avenue, this is 35 Burns Avenue. To sort of explain the taking of Burns Ave does end here. This piece of property that Mr. O'Leary was discussing, that's 20 by 95.48, is clearly in map 20 block 139, which is of the ownership of this property. Mr. Petrosi's project is coming down Burns Avenue. He is going in on his 20-foot side, and he's also overlapped onto part of this private property, for which I couldn't tell by the PDF that I got if it was 6 feet or 8 feet. I'm assuming the sidewalks would also be extended. So this piece of property that's 20 by 95.38 is clearly in the ownership of its private property. He does not have a deed. He does not have access, nor does he have any ownership of this private property. And he doesn't have control over this piece of property. He may come down the street and go in his 20-foot side, but we're asking the zoning board of appeals in Walpole to not allow private property to be taken as part of this process.
Okay, so we have it, just so everybody's clear, we have a stamped plan here. Just, you can stay right here, thank you. So, where is your property? Okay, and who owns this property? So, okay, so it's not contiguous to your property, but you do own that property?
Right.
Okay.
Along with my brother who's here and my other brother who's in Renton who's unable to go disabled veteran.
Okay.
My sister's in Florida.
Okay.
So under the master, whatever, 760J, whatever it is, he needs to have complete ownership, either right away or a purchase and sale, for which number we just asked that.
Okay, thank you for this info.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sure. Thank you. Good evening. I have a handout to give to you. And enough copies for everybody?
Jack, please identify yourself for the
Sure.
audience at home.
I'm not used to doing that. Here's my name tag. Jack Conroy, owner of the property abutting this. I live at 455 Elm Street.
Yep.
A nice.
Sure.
enough copies. Yep. More than enough. Okay, pay a few bucks on that one, huh?
You would have been my lawyer.
You should have tried me close. All right, my letter, and it contains a lot what Mr. O'Leary was saying and the Campbells have said. And I want to just, for the record, and I said it before, I'm not here regarding whether I like a 40B or I don't like a 40B. What I'm here is to do the legal process proper and to make sure everything is done proper. And that's what I continue to do since my terms on the planning board for the past umpteen years. Do it right. I mean, if it's legal, it's legal, so we gotta do it right. Now, in regards to Burns Ave, and this goes back, and I did it in front of this board, and I did it when I was sitting outside on my board, is the street right now stops at 446 feet thereabouts. You'll have in your packet, it's referenced there, town meeting vote 1946. I got this from the town clerk. It's the only thing they have on file, that Burns Ave was accepted in 1946 at their town meeting to about 446 feet. I don't believe it appears on the plan, but when you go down there, I own the two families at the end, right before 48. And it stops right at my property at 3436 Burns. Right next to my house on the left side going towards Pleasant is an old Dutch colonial. And it seems to make sense why it stopped there. Okay, so, and as we know, or as I'm sure some of you know, is on unaccepted streets in the, 71, 72, they disappeared, meaning that I own to the center, the Campbells own to the center. We own it. That would probably explain why I was asked by the applicant way back before this even started if I wanted to sell my two families, and I said no. So that kind of started me on my little journey here. And what I've done is given you evidence to back it up what has occurred. You will have in there, and I'm calling it item 2, is the, we were built in 1967, or they subdivided my property in 1967. If you look on there, you'll see the subdivision, but you also see the fact that where it stops and they show Burns. But remember, prior to 72, if the street was there, they said it was a street. So then we go further on in let's see, I'll be wearing my glasses when I do this. Further on, the A&R, there was one done in 1980 for 48 Burns Ave, where they did some property swapping. And that used to be owned by Delutus, and they owned a bigger piece, and I think they cut off a piece if I understand the whole thing. Then you come on to the variance that the Campbells got. They got a variance in 1986, and you'll see the plan that was A&R'd in 87. And what that meant is, from where their house is, they only had, memory serves me, maybe 50, 60 feet at the acceptance point. But to get the rest of the frontage, they had to seek a variance from the zoning board back in 86, and that's what you have there. So what you have is all the plans to date have showed you, and if you go down to town clerk, you'll get the same thing I did. The accepted road stops at the 440, I'll call it 8-foot mark. Beyond that, it's a street, it disappears. It becomes each property owner we own to the center line, okay? When this was coming back, I was not surprised to hear that they're gonna have access. Don't have access. Now the other thing, and this is what I'll say to the board, this is not my issue to go after and prove legally. This is not the Campbells. This is the town of Walpole's street. Is he legally on there or not? This is where the town council should be sought on this. This is the town's responsibility, in a nutshell. This is not a fight between me and the applicant. This is legal. Are you either on it or you're not? And that's where I believe this needs to go, okay? And one of the things I will throw out there is the fact that in Massachusetts, there's something called overburdening of an easement. And that's very simple, is right now at 48 Burns, Wilbur and his family, they have a, what do you call it, implied easement, that you can't stop people from driving back and forth. Kind of like the Cape, you can't stop people going to the ocean. But one thing you can't do on overburdening of an easement, you cannot change your land. You cannot add another multifamily to that. You cannot add land to that. You have changed the whole thing. And that's what's happening here. So right now, he doesn't have the ability to access it. And right now, if he goes and does what he wants to and acquires all the property, he's now overburdened the easement, which you can't do legally. 40Bs have nothing to do with, this is all Mass General Law. So that's what needs to be done by the town to say, you don't have access. You could get access, very simple, buy us out if we agree to it, as we all know. But right now, all you have is your own access. And just so that you understand is, when he bought the Delutis property, I don't know, a year or so ago, but he hasn't bought the Feltons yet. That's still hanging there. If he bought that, he's already overburdened the easement. I know it's my opinion, but I think it's a pretty simple law, but as soon as you walk down to the town clerk's office and they give you something that says it stops here, and the rest of it's done, it's done. And there's nothing you can do about it, because that's, and myself on the planning board, we've had a couple of those issues. I'll tell you one off of McKinley, there was a paper street, and 2 people owned it, and the person who developed it had to buy the rights from the other person. This happens a lot, okay? And I'll give you other examples of private streets right now. Eastover Road, if you're familiar with, on Washington Street. People live there. One couple approached me about, could the town do anything? Can't, the town doesn't own it. Everybody owns to the middle. So the town has no rights to go on to that. Just like they have no rights to go and do anything on the property beyond the 446 mark. So that's where we are as far as the access issue, overburdening, and to me, this is a town legal problem. Like I said, this is not a battle between the applicant and the butters. Also, there's something you may see on there, I haven't seen the plan. This road Gay Ave keeps showing up. That one, I don't know if it's on here.
It is.
It is. It's on your property.
Yeah, can I draw another one, Rick? Just put it on, what does that mean? You can draw them all day long. That means nothing, does it?
Depends.
But how does it depend when it was never, there's nothing in the town right now that says Gay Ave exists. There is nothing, it's just my property, so, but that still doesn't give them, there is no access, okay? I mean, there are roads ever, and what I found interesting about Gay Ave is I don't understand where that came from. They never revealed it to us, because we already have one Gay Ave. So how many Gay Aves do we have? So I'm not even sure, you know, it's.
I mean, could be an ancient way from Old Plains.
But where does it go? Because it goes like this,
I
so
don't-
it kind of comes through the condos there, but it just, there's nothing that will explain it. But regardless of that, there's nothing beyond the 446. And if you even look at the Delutis house was built in 52. So that's kind of giving you a little overview of that. And I would hope that the board would consider, or would have to, go and seek legal counsel on that. And one of the things I asked last time on the other hearing is, where did Gay Ave come from? It was never answered by them. I could go on to the other ones if you'd like. And some of you, a few of you were on the past one. And the fact that it's a dump site. And I don't believe there's anything in there that's been given to you to tell you what the material makeup is of this dump site, is there? Analysis or anything?
Just the soil test.
Just a soil test done by the guy who, before you dig, like you were used to doing all the time, to tell the excavator what he's got. So all you got is it tells it's anywhere from 4 to 8 feet. We don't know. So we don't have the soils, and that's one of the things reading up in 40B is you also have to make sure that you're protecting the neighborhood. And the fact is, and this is what the people here, I don't live there, or tenants there, but for them too, is you get kids, start digging, nobody knows what it is. So, my opinion is if I was doing this as a developer, that'd be the first thing I'd have down to show you, there's nothing wrong here, to put everybody's mind at ease. But when you don't bring something forward, always wonder. So that's something that I believe will have to be done. The next question is, it was, listening to it, you had a flood plan filing in front of your board in 2018 that was turned down. Have they applied for a new floodplain permit?
Part of the waivers.
So you're seeking a waiver for the floodplain with conservation or with the zoning board?
Zoning board.
Okay. So that's a waiver request?
Is it an automatic?
No.
Okay.
No,
Because
nothing's automatic.
Because one of the things I read
Would-
is.
If you recall, we have to make sure that the denial of that waiver does not make it uneconomic for this project. That's what the zoning board has to make sure. The zoning board only has to grant waivers to the extent that this project does not become uneconomic for the developer.
Okay, so, can I ask a simple question? Not having the access that I said, for him to buy it out at 10 million bucks, access has nothing to do with economics, correct?
That's separate. This goes to, if you recall, one of the first questions I asked was, before I knew any of this stuff about the street, was do you have site control of the property? And he said that he has site control of the property, but I think what you've made the point is he doesn't have access to the property. And I think that's what Mr. O'Leary and then Ms. Campbell provided the plan. So that's really where we're at now from the information that you've provided.
Okay, and my opinion is site access has nothing to do with the 40B. It's, you can't just plop something out in the middle of the woods and say, I want to build a 40B, and everybody rolls over and gives you the access. This is a whole legal issue beyond the 40B.
Right.
Okay.
No,
All right.
just so everybody knows, I think from what's been presented tonight, and we have access to town council, we're going to have town council take a look at this information and render an opinion whether, you know, the applicant has access to the site, and that's what you're asking for, right? For a legal determination.
Well, right now, and I can't argue, 48 Burns Ave, the Feltons have legal access via that easement.
But do they have a 40-foot, access?
No, what I'm saying, John, very simple, is they have an implied easement. The key to all this is the overburdening.
For a single-family home, they have
Yes.
they have an easement
And
for a
if you
single-family.
expand it, it's over. Overburdening, it kills.
That's your opinion?
My opinion based upon what I've read, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's an issue with that because of the fact it is overburdening, okay? And I just want to make it clear that the 40B just can't skirt all these other
No,
legal issues.
what I see here is that you have a 40-foot roadway that then really it drops to 20 feet. And I even have a question for you. You said that people who owns this piece of land in front of your property and the Feltons?
Which,
This piece, right? We know, well, we've been told that this is owned by 31 Burns Ave.
there I am, you can see how short they are. This,
So would you?
no, see, that's another, that's not even, Burns wasn't even down to there. This is the new build past there, there's a big rock there. Who owns that? I don't know, you have to ask the lawyer. I would say my property right now goes like this, to the middle.
This piece right here.
If that's deemed an extension of, yeah. If not, John, I would take it back to here, and these are the two properties, okay? And that I would own to the middle here and the middle here.
Okay. But this shows the layout for 1946 down to this point.
It was a layout, which they did, but it was only accepted back here. It's like anything.
Okay, so you're saying that.
That is the 446 feet right there.
the bound right here?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Because you'll see that when you go out there, you see, if you haven't been down there, you see the sidewalk stop. Everything just stopped there. What happened is Campbell's house, I assume they lived there at the time, and whoever lived here at the time, and this was all vacant in 46. 52, the Ludisons built their house there. So that's kind of how he owned all his property.
Okay.
So it was laid out all the way to the end, but only taken to the,
I don't know if it's even laid out, Rick, I couldn't find a plan. But what I do know is just by looking at the town meeting taking,
yeah, it was, obviously it was taken to.
taken in 46, because it made sense, is why you're gonna go beyond, because there's nobody living there.
Sure.
And nobody picked up on it, and then the 70s came along, and must have seen all the issues felt. The other thing I'd like to make note of is the fact that the applicant talked a little bit about wetlands and all that stuff. Kind of skirt over the issues. The zoning board actually turned them down for construction vehicles going out of onto Union Street. And it was like temporary, and as I said, what is temporary? We're all here temporarily, define temporary. A day, a week, a month, 100 years. The zoning board said, no, we don't want that, because what I did, they kind of make it sound like a little temporary access, not a big deal. To me, that's where you impact the wetlands the most, when you have construction trucks. They're gonna really knock it. If you have a little Honda Civic, it's not gonna do it. The other thing is, to me, if you wanna go out that way, and I know it's not you guys a little bit, but it could be, you could build a full-blown road to protect that with all your drainage and everything else to keep it from going there, not just throw down some gravel or even stone just to say that's a construction access, because you are next to a river, not even wetland, next to a river. So that's how they said, no, we won't let you go that way. And one of the things, and I still don't know, and I don't know if they've responded to water and sewer, but at the time, wanted to go out to, what do you call it, Union Street. And I did talk at the time, he's now got his promotion, Rick Mattson, and he said the applicant never told him during the previous one that he could have gone out Burns and asked to go out Burns. But, as we know, can't go out Burns, have to ask me and the Campbells. So there's reasons we got all this stuff. And the water line happened to go down the end because there's service in the new one, the Felton. But can't put a sewer in there. And one thing I did hear is Rick said it's an old sewer, so if anybody's gonna do anything, they're gonna make them rebuild it.
The sewer line on
Burns. So, no one wanted to go that expense, but, you have the water, that's why the sewer's going out there. Doesn't have to ask my permission or Campbell's to go through there, so. I'll let you with that. I'll throw one more out for you. The question is, and I don't know it because, like I said, I'm not a lawyer. The date this was filed this time, what was the date?
February 15th?
15th, okay. The question is, and for legal counsel, I guess, to ask is, you have to wait a year. Decision, the vote was held on the 7th, but the decision wasn't filed until the 21st. In my understanding, the way we work, it's a year from the decision, not the vote. So my opinion is this jumps the gun.
Okay. We can also ask, I'm happy to ask town council.
If you would, on that. I mean, it's not just necessarily Mr. Petrozzi, and I mean to pick, a little bit picking on it, but I also, for my own instance, in what I do with my board, is find out, I believe it's the decision date, not when you vote. Because I know you guys sometimes will go immediate to, because you got a lot on your plate, and it's when it's filed. That's the simple question. All right, so the information, I think you got enough copies. If you like, I'll send Amy tomorrow PDF, because I know I like having a PDF. It's so much easier at home and stuff rather than, and I know where a lot of stuff ends up out on the curb the next week, because you just get too much. Thank you.
Okay, hold on. So I just want to be clear, the two things, site access based on the layout of Burns Ave.
Yep.
And the other thing we're going to talk to town council about is the date of filing less than 1 year. Is
Yep.
that-
Yes.
That's just a couple of questions.
Yeah.
And so the access issue is separate and apart from, I believe it's 3.23 acres of site on which the development would occur. There's not a dispute as to whether they have control over those 3.
No, I know, yeah, he bought the property from the survey, has an option on Felton's property and he bought that little piece, I don't, I'm.
No, I just wanted, I was just
Yeah,
trying to clarify.
it's
my-
just, like I said before, the access issue on that. The only thing I don't know if you guys control it is have you filed with the conservation?
Not as of, not
Oh,
as
okay.
of this day.
So they have, okay, so it's the process, I'm just trying to get the process understood. I can understand why you wouldn't necessarily file, because you guys gotta go through it with him, and things may move. Okay, I just wanted to find that out, okay.
Yeah, we'll just add the access and site control issue just for our communication with town council is that one of the criteria for getting a project eligibility letter under 40B is to demonstrate to Mass Housing that you have site control. And they've made that determination. I'm not judging whether it was correct or not, but they did make that determination in their eligibility letter. So I think one of the questions for town council is whether I think the site control of the acreage on which the project is gonna be constructed, doesn't sound like there's a dispute there, but whether, in the context of 40B, we are to dive into sort of property rights issues as opposed to.
So is your question, a letter from Mass Housing saying that they have site control, does that also mean that they have site access?
Well, is that, are we, there are certain things obviously that we can't go into when it's in the context of a 40B, and some of those things are the things that Mass Housing determines and we are not to determine. I just want to get clarification from town council that the question of site access is something that we, as a board, can address in the context of the 40B application, or whether that's essentially a private property dispute, whether they get the, if they get the permit at the end of the day but don't have access, they still can't build the project. So, I'm just trying to get clarification,
Okay.
just the scope of our review,
I think-
basically, is what I'm asking.
John, I think the question of access, I mean, someone can't even come forward to the planning board for an approval not required lot without access. So I think that, you know, in my experience, that is a key element. If you don't have access to the site, it's landlocked, basically. So that, to me, that's, you know, you talk about control and access, they're pretty, in my mind, they're on par with each other.
They must have made some representation to the state, though. That's what
I don't know that.
Rob was saying.
I don't
Yeah.
know
I
that,
understand,
yeah.
I understand
Yeah.
what you're saying.
I included all my stuff with the state,
Hmm? Okay.
not being a lawyer, not being on the state. They just wanna see site control. They could care less about this stuff. This is legal stuff, and they're not gonna fire up one of their own attorneys on a land use to see. They're saying, yes, I got it, and we're saying no, so they're not gonna get in the middle of the dispute. And the fact is, this is the town's, what do you call it? They accept it, so they should be the ones, I believe, stepping up. This is not, like I said, a dispute among us. Had the town accepted to where he has now in the Felton, I wouldn't be here talking about it. This is the town's, and like Mr. Charbonneau said, is, you can't come in front of us. I almost see it as two different issues, is you do your 40B, but then you have the access. Because the access really doesn't have anything to do with this 40B. It's a whole separate issue, and that's all.
I mean, I think if there's a clear connection between the lack of access and, say, non-compliance with the zoning requirement, like a lack of frontage, for example,
That's different.
that there's some connection to what we have purview of. But absent that, I'm trying to understand the connection between the lack of access and a zoning bylaw-related issue, as opposed to just a private property
Yeah,
right to.
and the overburden, like I said, it comes from the state, and it comes, it's a very simple thing they used to give you in real estate school is people would come down and you put a fence up, you can't do that because it's an implied easement, and that's what they have. You can't stop people. But the other thing is you can't expand it, and that's what the overburden comes out, and that's from a legal, and nothing to do with 40B, like I said, it has to do with access.
Okay, thanks.
All right?
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Kathy Campbell, 35 Burns Ave. I'm sorry to take up your time. I just want to be clear that the 20 by 95.38 piece of land on our new survey has been owned for 66 years by the Campbells. It's a land, it's a lawn, it's rocks. It is not vehicular or pedestrian traffic.
If you look on the map, you can actually see the Fountain's driveway.
Yeah.
Right here. This is the only part that the thing moves. They don't travel over our property, no, you can't, there's big boulders and things, for those of you that were there last year, you saw them.
Right. And just two quick things, I'm sorry, but,
fine.
if you look at, Mr. Petrosi's plan and you look at our plan, our front line has always been 257.66. It's in the deeds, it's in every plot plan that's filed. If you look at his plan, our line is actually, this front line, he's extended 20 feet to give the 48 Burns Ave additional 20 feet of frontage, so the 48 Burns Ave has 80.27 feet for the frontage on this 20-foot road. So there is sort of a frontage issue. I understand that with a 40B, you can waive that frontage issue. And I also just, may I ask you a question? Are you saying that access to the property is not under the ZBA's authority?
Well, I'm asking for clarification from town council about that question, because it may be the case that whether, you know, one landowner has access rights over another landowner's property is purely a private dispute. Whether, and I don't know that we're capable, frankly, of resolving that with that, you know, that's sort of a land court kind of issue. But I would like to get some direction as to whether we need to really dive into that as part of this process.
May I share with you that I placed a call to Mass Housing, and I had a discussion with them about this issue, because this issue was obviously in front of this board a couple of years ago for 14 months. The reason why we did a new plan is we were told over and over again that we had to have a new survey to show the town. When I briefly talked to the Mass Housing Authority and explained to them that the access into the 40B was traveling over privately owned property, and that I assumed that the ZBA did not have authority to say anything about that. I read the 40B, and it talks about waivers and it talks about safe harbor, doesn't talk about anything else. The gentleman at Mass Housing said that that is totally my incorrect assumption. He said that it is within the ZBA's authority to ensure that there is proper legal access, and that if there was any question at the ZBA level, that contact to Mass Housing for them. They have not seen this because this was just done. When I submitted my response to Mr. Johnson, I didn't have this plan. I think Michael Busby, the gentleman that signed the original letter, said that absolutely, if you had questions about any of that, that you could contact them.
This eligibility letter.
Yes, it was not the person that signed it, but at the bottom it said to contact Michael Busby with questions. And he said that Mass Housing would in fact provide whatever assistance needed, but in his opinion, he assured me as a resident that it was in the authority to assure that, you know, a project is not going over private property. Thank you.
So we'll add that to our list to contact Mass Housing for clarification from their part, and also have the town council do the same.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other people to comment? Yeah.
Liz Barrows, again, 189 Union Street. So, Mr. Chairman, and for the other members of the board who were not present for the first go-around on this prior application for the lot of land, after it was denied, going through the process, he submitted the soil testing, which didn't really have any extensive information, and then the residents asked him to elaborate, and he said that there was no, for layman's terms, toxic material on the land. After the denial, we found out that there was actually toxic material, and that he was cleaning it up, and he went before the Conservation Commission, and it was a very quick thing. He went in front of them, and the very next day he was excavating the land. And in talking to the state, They said that if, that us, the abutters, did not have a right to find out what the actual materials that were found, because it was a private property at the time, and he was within a certain threshold or time period to clean it up. So my question to you, the board, is whether or not you have the permission or purview to request what that material was. And it's my feeling that it's quite possible that it wasn't entirely cleaned up the right way. I know the response by the applicant will be, I hired a company and this is what they do for a living and whatever. But I didn't bring it with me, and I will, at a future meeting, submit it. I looked through the bylaw, and I feel as though he was required to let the state know. And under the clause that he was working on, he should not have been, and that the company that he hired to do the work didn't follow the proper regulations. So I will submit that next time, but I was just wondering if you guys can present that so that we know what's going to be dredged up when this project starts.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, just so people understand, these are conditions that the zoning board can impose on the applicant.
Okay.
And in this case, it would be to protect the neighbors. Say, okay, we want to know before you start disturbing the soil on the site, what is in the soil. Maybe it's just, pure soil that has nothing in it. But those are conditions that, can be put on a 40B project like this. It's very common, so.
And my, another question, I don't know, it's more related to conservation. The first time around, he had proposed a minor modification or amendment, I think is what Landis made him do, to put the construction vehicle traffic next to the river, and it was denied at that point in time. So does a 40B application supersede conservation issues?
No.
So if it was denied that time, is it because it'll be there's new members on the board and now they'll look at it
Are
differently?
you talking about conservation?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Like
not
they
gonna
already-
comment on that, but this is a new application,
Mhm.
and the applicant still has to file with conservation. Yes.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Well, it seems to me that it was already voted no, so.
This is a new plan.
Okay,
Yeah, we can go back.
okay.
I have a question. Does anybody know when the fill was put in? Any of the old timers, maybe?
Oh, from the original fill? Oh, I
Yeah.
don't know, it was,
Well, it's from Birds.
Birds.
It was from Birds probably about 70, 80 years
Okay,
ago.
yeah,
When
okay.
the coat was still pretty fresh,
Okay.
and it's sitting.
Okay, I think
thank you.
Thanks.
as you mentioned, I think, public health and safety is within our.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think one of the
Yes.
things the board might consider is whether we retain licensed science professional to review the material that the applicant provides, to give us an independent opinion about the status of the cleanup, or whether additional, site investigation is necessary in order to assure everyone that the, conditions meet residential standards.
Okay. Anybody else?
Can I just,
Sure.
one thing, Joseph Shield, 28 Burns Ave. I just want to ask, if Mr. Petruzzi truly believed he had access to that property, why has he not purchased 48 Burns Ave outright? Why is it only under agreement? If you truly believed you had access, wouldn't you purchase that? Instead of fighting over the access? If you truly believed you had access?
wouldn't you purchase that outright before the price went up?
I don't know what he thinks. You can ask him, I can ask him, if you feel like answering
It's
that.
none of his business.
Just a point of,
Simple.
John, I've seen projects where they'll be under agreement pending receipt of certain permits to do a project on a site, so
Before they
it's not
put out any
uncommon.
money. Business.
Okay. So, that's common where you have
well,
agreements.
if he truly thought he had access, wouldn't you have purchased it 3 years ago when this process started? Or
I don't know.
I mean,
It's-
most of us would, wouldn't we?
I don't know what I would do, so.
I wouldn't buy it till I got approved.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Hi, Carrie Snyder with the Neponset River Watershed Association. We submitted some initial written comments. Primarily we're concerned with any potential impact to the waterways nearby and the wetlands nearby. I'm not gonna reiterate that, but we do look forward to working with the board, with conservation, and with the developer and his consultants to make sure that this is a protected project. I also wanted to submit a letter from one of our partners, Greater Boston Trout Unlimited. They tried emailing it and it wasn't going through, so I just wanted to.
We do have that.
Oh, you do, okay.
But we'll
He
take
had
it.
a bounce back or
Okay.
something.
Okay, no, that's great. And this is because Pickerel Brook is, or is it a trap hole?
Trap hole is
Trap
a
hole.
cold water
Yeah.
fishery.
As well as the tributaries to Trap Hole.
Yeah.
Tributary runs down into the property.
Which, yeah, they're putting construction access directly on top of.
Yeah, at least I know I've enjoyed many a brookie out of Trap Hole.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Mr. Petrosi, do you have anything else to add? No. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we'll continue this, this hearing. We have some information that the zoning board's gonna move forward on. And please, as I said at the beginning, if you're going to submit information, please put it in writing. It's just easier for everybody so that it's documented. Okay, when is the next date available?
April 3rd, right?
Okay. April 3rd. Is that good for board members? I want to make sure that we keep our full quorum.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, so.
Okay, so this hearing will be continued until April 3rd. Location will be,
Probably good.
okay, right back here at the police station. And you won't get another notice, but please, if neighbors were not here and they're interested, please let them know that this hearing will be continued until April 3rd at 7 o'clock.
7?
Yes, I've got a couple questions in the back.
I was just curious, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
Yep.
Yes.
John,
Mrs.
question.
Campbell, Ms. Campbell,
I'm sorry.
she's behind you.
I'm sorry, Jack. Will we get notice about the conservation, or do we have to just keep checking with
There'll be a
conservation?
separate notice. Yep.
Separate notice for conservation?
You'll get one, yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And Mr. Conroy.
I assume we'll have the technical experts here on behalf of the applicant, so I don't waste my time having a 2-minute show, because I've seen this in the past. It really is a problem when you can't ask about certain things and they're technical, you need the PEs and all that
No,
stuff.
next, as I said at the beginning tonight, this was an introduction, and everybody had a chance to talk.
Okay.
And the next meeting, we're gonna get into the engineering aspects, and, hopefully I'm gonna try to get answers on site access.
Okay, will you be picking what you're gonna do each time? Meaning like tonight is traffic night, tomorrow's this, or?
Yeah, it's really,
We're gonna have everybody here next meeting.
okay, so you'll have civil engineering and traffic?
Correct.
Okay.
And we'll have PEs representing, correct?
Well, you're gonna have a civil engineer, I don't know if it's a PE, but.
That's correct.
I would hope there would be.
And then we'll do chemical analysis at another meeting?
As far as the soil? Yeah, well, that's one of the questions
We'll
that.
have to ask them.
The question I have is, conditions of the soil and, how to move forward on that. And one of the things, we could wait until the end and just make it a condition, or we could
Maybe we
have
could, we might talk to the Board of Health, they might have some information.
see,
from
we sit in place of the Board of Health on
No,
this.
no, for information
Yeah,
to us.
okay.
We're allowed to converse.
If they have some
Okay.
historical
Oh, yeah,
information.
we're not only allowed to converse, we're getting input from all the
Right.
other boards.
So we should talk to them.
Okay. Okay, so this is continued until April 3rd, 7 o'clock, right back here. Thank you, everybody. Oh, could I have a motion to continue?
So the
All in favor of continuing until the 3rd? Opposed?
Hey, how are you? I was actually going to call you. We got your memo, Amy forwarded it, and we did, as you probably, I don't know if you're familiar with the previous process. So we did incorporate a whole bunch of things. This is Chris right here.
Michael.
Okay, folks, we still have additional hearings going on, so if you don't mind, if you have conversations, take them out to the lobby.
All right, here we go. Amy, you all set? These aren't even like that price yet. I didn't go to Mass. We're gonna go to hell.
I wrote a letter. I didn't know if it was personally. I'll talk to her.
It says drainage, she does have drainage comments.
She does have time.
Yeah.
That'll take down for months.
John, do you have comments on these,
On which, on,
on the
Yes.
cases for tonight? Where are they?
They're in the folders.
Okay, everybody's folding?
No, there's in the actual file folder,
Okay,
under Putney.
okay.
Under what?
Under comments, under board comments. I've got them. Okay. Summit Ave?
John, I'm gonna take a pass on this.
Okay.
one.
Let me just read the legal notice, get going.
Isn't it cool when you make them warm like that?
Okay.
Sure feel good.
No.
A notice is hereby given that the zoning board of appeals of the town of Walpole will hold a public hearing in the main meeting room, which has been moved to the police station on Wednesday, March 6th, at 7 p.m. on an application of Patricia Pisano, case number 0119, with respect to property located at 98 Summit Ave, Walpole, Mass. Zoning District B. Application is for a special permit under Mass General Laws 48, Section 6 and 9.4A of the zoning bylaws to allow the proposed reconstruction and expansion of an existing non-conforming single-family residence, and also request the determination under 9.2 G4 of the zoning bylaws to allow the existing dwelling at 98 Summit Ave to be demolished and reconstructed so the use will not be considered abandoned. The application may be viewed in the office of the Board of Appeals. Okay. We have comments from a few of the departments. We have from Town Engineer Maggie Walker. Reference has been made to a plan entitled 98 Summit Ave, plot of land in Walpole, Mass. The following comments are made. The submitted plan appears to have incorporated half the layout of Dupy Street into this lot. Even though the abutter may own a piece of this land by means of being an abutter, simply incorporating the half street layout on this plan does not make it legal or proper to do so.
Yeah.
Even though this owner may own it, others may have legal right to use it since it is part of the street layout, albeit an old one. It is recommended that the owner's engineer present legal documents to verify the owner's ability to annex a portion of the street layout. 2, issue in number 1 above should be resolved since removing the street layout portion of Dupy Street would alter the side yard setback table. The plan shows a portion of the proposed driveway extending into the easement. It is strongly suggested that the applicant be advised that not to construct this, or, in the alternative, they should be aware that it could be disturbed, destroyed at any time if the easement needs to be accessed. Okay, that's from town engineer. We have comments from the planning board. The planning board is in receipt of your request for comments for the above filing. Please be advised there are no comments at this time. Conservation. The Conservation Commission does not have any comments at this time for the project, and it is not within the Commission's jurisdiction. Board of Health. The Board of Health at its February 5th, 2019 meeting unanimously voted that they have no specific concerns. From the Walpole Fire Department. The Fire Department has reviewed the application and plans for the above-mentioned location. We have the following comment to offer the board. We offer no objection to the request and point out that if a special permit is granted by the board, construction plans will be required to be submitted to the fire department for approval for the location of life safety devices. Okay. And we have from Legacy Engineering. Is this you?
That's me. You don't have to read.
Okay.
He's gonna say it.
I'm gonna say it.
Okay. And do you address the town engineer's comments?
I will, of course.
Okay. Okay, and we have from John Charbonneau, Community Planning Director. This office offers the following comments for application of a special permit for the proposed demolition and reconstruction of a single-family dwelling on the lot known as 98 Summit Ave. The site is located in the Residence B zoning district. Even though the new dwelling will be constructed on a different footprint than the existing dwelling, it will comply with all minimum dimensional setbacks and other requirements of Residence B zoning district. In fact, the new footprint will make the structure more conforming than the existing structure in some ways. However, the site plan appears to utilize the center line of Dupee Street as the western lot line of the parcel. The applicant should provide evidence that this is a legal lot line for the parcel by providing the approved approval not required A&R plan or other legal documents that show this area can be incorporated into the lot. Okay, and I think that's it for comments. Okay, why don't you introduce yourself and explain what's being proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Dan Merrick with Legacy Engineering here on behalf of the applicant. Patricia Pisano is here. She is going to be living in this house. So this is something that the process here that I've outlined in my application is that was established in 2011 when we did a similar application at 37 Summit Ave for Sal Pisano.
Charles. Sal's on the roof.
Oh, sorry. And so town council opined that we need to do two things, because if you have a house on an undersized lot and you demolish the house, the lot is not necessarily protected as a non-conforming lot. So what we need to do first from a procedural standpoint is address under 9.2G4 a determination by the board that the demolition of the existing single-family house does not constitute an abandonment of the residential use of the lot. And then the second step in the process would be under 9.4A would be a special permit which parallels MGA 48 Section 6 to basically determine that the proposed construction of a new house is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing house on the property. So I've given you a new plot plan today and an aerial photograph so that you can see kind of the context of the neighborhood. The existing house is a one-story house, right? Yeah, and it sits in the center of what I have shown you as being the lot. And I'll get into this discussion about the adjacent ways. But you can see that the existing house, which is in light gray underneath, it's labeled there, it extends into the private way on the right side of the property by 3 or 4 feet. So what we have here is we have a lot that it goes back to 1914. It's a compilation of 6 little parcels. And then adjacent to it on the right is a 50-foot private way, which was labeled on the 1914, actually wasn't labeled on the 1914 plan as anything, but it's a private way. It's now kind of known as an extension of what would be Dupee Street, which is across the way. In behind is another private way, it's a 40-foot way. It was labeled on the 1914 plan as Woodland Road. So what we have here, very simple, similar to what you heard at the last hearing. It's called the Derelict Fee Statute. So these are old ways that were shown on a plan from 1914. They were never constructed. They were never taken by the town. They're not public ways. The town has no ownership interest in the ways. So all the properties around these ways were deeded out at different times to different parties. And what the Derelict Fee Statute states is that in that instance where you have a private way, the abutters own to the center line of the private ways in question. And it's not something that an abutter has to do. It's an operation of law. You basically look at the deeds. If the fee in the adjacent way wasn't specifically reserved by the grantor, that fee in the way to the center line automatically goes with your lot to you. So in this case, and I have an opinion from Attorney Brady, and I'll submit that for the board, that the adjacent ways are private ways, they're not streets, that they are part of the property by virtue of the Derelict Fee Statute, and that the applicant has a right to use the land because they own the land. Now that doesn't obviate the fact that there are right-of-ways there. So, you know, the area, the two strips in question are right-of-ways. Someone may or may not have the right to use those right-of-ways. You'd have to do a pretty exhaustive title search to determine that. And we have not positioned the house in either of the right-of-ways. We have positioned the house in the lot, outside of the right-of-ways, so the construction of the structure wouldn't interfere with anyone's use if anyone were able to demonstrate a right to use either one of those 40-foot ways or 50-foot ways. They could do so. The presence of the driveway doesn't obstruct anyone's ability to use that way for any purpose if they had a right. Now the town does have an easement over our half of the 50-foot way on the right. And that's kind of evidence of the fact that this applicant owns that land, because if you go back when the town secured that easement, they secured it from the prior property owner of 98 Summit Ave. And they, on the right side of the 50-foot right-of-way, they secured an easement from the owner of the house on the right side of that 50-foot layout. So it's pretty obvious that at that time, town council did their diligence and concluded that the fee in this land was owned by the person who owned 98 Summit Ave, and they secured an easement. And they actually jogged that easement around the house, because the existing house extends into that, their half of that 50-foot right-of-way. So, and I have a copy of that, which you can have for your records. This is the town easement. And you'll see attached to that town easement is a plan prepared by John Anderson. Yeah, it was John. So that's upside down there, but you can see it's split into two sides. They got an easement from this party, the prior predecessor owner, to the Pizzanos over this half of it, including Woodland Road, and they got an easement over this half from the Dean family. So that's kind of confirmation about basically what the Derelict Fee Statute stipulates with respect to these issues. So I did give you, when I submitted my original plan, all I had was that easement grant in my possession, and that easement grant was basically documentation the town had confirmed that, you know, that this lot owner owned those pieces. I've now since received confirmation from Mr. Brady that the rest of Woodland Road is also owned in fee by 98 Summit Ave, so we modified the plot plan. So basically our lot is now.
So Woodland, you said the rest of Woodland Road, so all behind these other houses?
It's just adjacent to the lot.
Okay, as shown here.
Correct. So if you look at the aerial photograph, you will see that all of the neighbors they're basically in all those old rights of way. There's a pool right in the middle of Woodland, and then, you know, we have sheds and things all over the place. Because these, you know, the adjacent landowners to these old ways, they own to the center line by virtue of that statute. So what we have is an existing structure that's non-conforming due to front yard setback. I added that on the new plot plan. The existing front yard setback is only 25.9, where 30 is required. So we're proposing to demolish an existing one-story non-conforming structure and to construct a new one-story structure that would meet all the setback requirements. This is a concept rendering the front of the house. It's just a one-story home. You know, not a big house, not a McMansion by any stretch of the imagination. Meets all the setback requirements, meets all the coverage requirements. We basically would be remedying an existing nonconformity. And that's about it in a nutshell, unless you have questions for me.
Just a question then, if you can build the proposed structure with no zoning relief whatsoever, why do you need a special permit?
Because the lot is non-conforming. Right. So if the lot had the requisite 20,000 square feet of area and 125 feet of frontage, we could demolish the house and build a new one. Town council opined in 2011 that because the lot is not compliant, the minute you tear down the house, you could be construed to have abandoned your use. So that pulls you into 9.4a, which is, you know, basically modifying a non-conforming use on a non-conforming lot, and 9.24g, determining that the removal of the house is not an abandonment of the use.
And 9.4a, this appears to apply to extending or altering an existing structure as opposed to demolishing and rebuilding a new structure.
Well, I think it would be the latter half of that provision, which talks about, I have to pull it up here. It talks about any other activity, I think. Let me pull up the bylaw. This is exactly the relief town council pointed us to for 37 Summit Ave, which was the exact same situation, although we had some other issues involved, but this is exactly what town council told us we had to do.
Old camps, that's what it is.
Yeah, this whole development is little combination of little 20-foot wide, 25-foot wide lots. Okay, 9.4a. So I believe it would be the second half of that provision, which is any other change, extension, or alteration. And I think that, you know, tearing down a reconstruction is considered to be a change. This, again, was exactly what town council pointed us to in 2011.
That was such a 2 years.
For the of the use, but not a.
Once you tear it down, that's it?
No, I mean, I'm just reading 4A and asking the question whether that's intended to allow you to modify an existing non-conforming structure that will continue to be non-conforming. So it says change, extension, or alteration of an existing non-conforming one-family or two-family dwelling. Provided that we make a determination that will not increase the non-conforming nature of the structure, or that such enlargement or extension will not be substantially more detrimental. So I'm trying to understand how this provision covers demolition. I understand you're talking about 9.2g, to non-conforming use or other non-conforming situation shall be deemed to be abandoned if it is apparent that the owner does not intend to use it.
I can give you town council's opinion from 2011. There's a lot of other stuff in here that doesn't pertain here, but that's the email through Jack Mead, the prior building inspector. He sought that opinion from town council.
Okay. And that was the same language and everything at that time?
Yeah, it was the same bylaw. We applied for the same. They needed some additional relief, but we applied for these two things exactly in 2011 for 37 Summit Ave.
Okay. So I have one question here. The documents from 1991, the property owner, is this the next door, Kaderka? Is that you gave us? Are they this property right here?
No, it's the, so Kudurka is the predecessor owner to our piece.
Okay.
Right, so there's Kudurka.
Okay.
So they're a prior owner to this piece.
To the piece that we're discussing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all.
So, Kudurka,
Kudurka granted an easement to the town.
Kudurka granted an easement to the town.
Over the right of way, not over their lot proper. You know, so that's confirmation. The town wouldn't have sought an easement from Kudurka over the right of way if the town hadn't concluded that Kudurka owned the fee in that half of the right of way.
Well, why did the town want an easement over that?
I have no idea. It's a good question. I don't think it's a utility easement. I don't believe any utilities are there. It may be that at one time the town was thinking of running some utilities to the water tower back there. I don't know. The town does have a utility easement there. I don't know why they sought that in the first place.
Okay, so the applicant clearly understands that
The town could
the
tear
town,
up
the
the
town
driveway.
owns an easement on their property, a 25-foot easement on their property because it's half of the right of way.
Correct.
Just out of curiosity, do you know if the town got the other 25-foot easement from the?
They did.
Okay, so.
They have a 50-foot wide easement
Okay,
going through there,
which is the old private way.
which is the old private way, except for the little notch. You see on the Anderson plan, he carved out a notch where the existing house extends into the old private way. Aside from that little notch, yes, the town has a utility easement over that whole strip, extending all the way back to the center line of Woodland Road. I think, I don't know for sure, but I think the town may own the parcel of land on the back side of Woodland Road.
No, we own that.
Oh, okay. So they would own to the other center line of Woodland Road.
I'm not understanding that notch though, because it's not on our engineering plans and we just did work on our house. That's why my husband went to talk to Maggie.
Right here.
Where's the notch?
It's this here. It's this little.
This piece right here.
This part is not in the town easement. It's in the right of way, but it's not in the town's easement.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And that's from the existing house?
Well, that's the easement the town secured in 91. That's the existing house, yeah, the existing house
That's the
extends,
existing structure, but the new
extends
structure's
into that right of way. Yep.
Okay. So.
Yeah.
wanna go
I
back
got
to
one,
Maggie?
I got one.
Maggie Walker's.
2J. Happy J. I'm gonna have work go over Maggie's thing.
This is the plan. So, I'm looking, I know you responded the next day to Maggie Walker's comments here, but,
She didn't find my response satisfactory because I'm not a lawyer. That's why Mr. Brady provided you an opinion. If you're interested, this is the 1914 plan that lays out that whole neighborhood, and I highlighted the pieces that are part of our lot, and this is the 50-foot, and this is the 40-foot.
yeah, these are old
Old
camps.
camps, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so your response to Maggie was,
I
was not
basically
su-
explained the derelict fee statute, and she said, that's great, but I need to hear it from a lawyer.
Okay.
Paraphrasing.
Yeah, and now we have
Mr. Brady.
the letter from Mr. Brady. Here it is. Okay, and so he's saying, it is my legal opinion that Mr. Pisano owns, as shown in the plan titled 98 Summit, plan of land in Walpole, Mass. Dated November 2018, to be the center line of Dupy Street and Woodland Street. Paper streets shown on the plan pursuant to the statute and case law interpreting the same. Okay, do you have that original plan from 19, like the old camps?
That's just a copy of our deed. Just describes the parcel in question.
Okay, I just wanted, so, if you look, this parcel is these old.
Those six.
Those 6 old lots.
Yep.
Okay, so, what is it, 9,000, how many, 9,000, should be 9,000.
Yeah, it's right around there.
9,000 square feet.
Yep.
Where's your plan?
And then it's this 25 feet and this 20 feet, which brings it up to 14,000 square feet. Still undersized.
Right, I mean, but see, this concerns me, that at some point these were roads. They weren't accepted, but what makes this property owner able to take half and half?
So that's the law, right? It's the Derelict Fee Statute.
Right.
So they weren't roads, what they were rights of way. So what happens is, so, you know, from 1914 to now, 105 years, all this land was deeded out. Nobody deeded out the fee in these rights of ways. You know, presumably, it's still owned by the heirs of whoever developed all of this. It's a title mess. So
Right.
that's why the Commonwealth passed the Derelict Fee Statute, basically to clean up this kind of title mess. And what the Derelict Fee Statute says, and you can apply today, if I'm a developer and I do a subdivision today, when I sell lot 1 to anyone, to one of you, if I don't state in my deed to you that I am reserving the fee in the adjacent road, you get half of the road. You get ownership of the fee in the half of the road that's in front of your lot. That's what the Derelict Fee Statute says. And they made it retroactive. So, and the intention was to clean up all these old rights of ways. And, you know, it applies to, you know, street rights of ways, it applies to electric rights of ways. Old railroad beds were often taken as easements and not in fees, so the Derelict Fee Statute applies there. So what it says is, you know, automatically, when they deeded out this chunk of land to whomever, the fee, this half and this half, went with those deeds. Even though it's not stated in the deed, it goes with the deed, and you own that. At some point, the town took some of that. So that's now a public way. That's a separate matter. The other 2 ways are just, they're not streets. The town doesn't have any interest in those. The town wouldn't have secured an easement if they had any rights to use those. They had to secure the easements over that 50-foot stretch because they didn't have a right to use it. It's just an old private way. It's an old paper street that, you know, ownership is unclear, and that's exactly why the Derelict Fee Statute was passed, to clean that mess up.
Okay.
I think I would like to digest this a little bit more. I mean, I do see here just a statement talking about 9.4A, that since protection under zoning bylaw 9.4A is available only for an existing dwelling, the proposed demolition would eliminate both the existing dwelling and the protection it enjoys under this provision. So it seems to me to be the conclusion that 9.4A does not protect the, I guess this is 37 Saga. So, but there's a lot of other information in here, so I wanted to have the time to look at it.
Okay, well, we can continue this. I also want to just run this by Maggie Walker and make sure that afterwards, you've been what you've presented, and I understand it, that we just say, we're all in agreement that, you know, Woodland and Dupy go, you know, half of Woodland and half of Dupy goes to this lot.
Mhm.
So, do you want to continue this?
Yeah, I would,
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Drew, how are you?
Good.
Okay, yep, sure. Just please.
My name is Chip Ivy. My address 62 Highland Street. I own the property on the other side of Woodland. Welcome to the neighborhood. Congratulations. So my question is, with the paper roads, it's always been my assumption that you basically own up to the center, okay? But I've never had it physically put on my lot that I own up to the center. It's always just been the paper road, and that's how we've treated it. And we share half and half. So I guess my question is, if we're gonna move forward and put the property lines to the center, I suppose what I'd probably do is bring out my engineer and do the same for my properties that go to the center of Woodland as well.
And see, this is why I've got a concern, because you're on Highland, so you back up onto Woodland.
Yeah.
And there's also a neighbor on Summit who backs up on that same Woodland.
Correct.
And so who's to determine whether you get half or they get half?
Correct.
John, also what I wonder is, can that be done without some kind of approval not required plan to move that lot line and officially incorporate that piece of land into a lot? That's another procedural question is.
Well, Mr. Brady said that you did not, I mean, basically, the plan in front of you reflects the existing property line as dictated by the Derelict Fee Statute.
Right, but this is the plan that you've provided us, right?
Our plans
So
from
how-
our engineers show a water line easement that when we purchased that 325 feet that's parallel to Woodland, we had many meetings with Maggie and with the old Michael Boynton. And there's a water line easement, and it went in before they put in that second water tank while we were living there. And when we bought that property from the Reeds estate, we then extended our land on the other side, not the Woodland side, to make it the same distance of our backyard. And when we did that, Michael Boynton pointed out that there could never be a structure because there's a water line easement that basically comes in off of Summit right down Dupuy, according to our engineer's plans.
Yeah, we're not proposing any structures in that easement.
Right.
Oh, no, I know, I'm just
The
pointing that out.
easement's in the side yard, basically.
It looks like it runs right down Dupuy and then across our property down to Southstown is where the pool is.
Yeah, there may be more easements, further back, that 50-foot easement, they may have secured easements from a bunch of different people. I only looked at the two on either side of
Right.
2 P Street.
Okay, so, what's available to continue this?
March 20th,
Okay, do you want to continue to, what's that?
Get the info.
Yeah, I mean, I want to just talk to Maggie Walker and just confirm that this makes sense to her before we go forward. How's our next meeting?
I'll be here for something else, so.
Okay.
Good timing.
It'll be
Yeah.
great.
That'll be great.
Okay.
Greg can take the night off.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If it is true, this whole derelict thing, how come you only
That's what I was calling it.
Is that what it's called?
Derelict fee.
Derelict Fee Statute.
Yeah.
So why did you guys only put a section of a 25-foot bump out up against Dupuy to Woodland? Why didn't you extend the whole backyard 25 feet into Woodland?
So we have generated a new plan that has done that.
Oh.
But the reason why we didn't do that initially is because initially I didn't have an opinion from an attorney that said that we owned that portion of Woodland. What I had the town's easement deed, which confirmed that we owned the fee in the easement they took. So that's what we showed as the property boundary. Since then, we have an opinion from an attorney that says we own the rest of Woodland to the center line, and we submitted a revised plan reflecting that.
Okay, and is that the plan that we have before us?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, let's extension.
Yeah, so originally,
You didn't-
originally we
it
had
doesn't show
a,
20 it doesn't show 20 lines.
we had a notch here.
Okay.
So this is a 40-foot way. This is a 50-foot way. So we are owning to the half of it.
So that's, you own 20 feet?
20 feet.
20 feet.
On Woodland, 25 on
22.
50.
Yep. I wish he had marked 20 on this.
Want me to change that?
I mean.
I can do that.
Yeah, do you see what I'm saying?
Sure.
How
Yep, I
that
can
would,
do that.
that would clarify, what you're claiming they own.
No problem.
Okay. You see what I'm saying on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got that.
Yeah.
He understood.
Yeah, but do you understand how it doesn't show that? Okay.
Don't lose that.
Good. I think we just want to make sure that we protect everybody involved, including the applicant and the town and everybody else involved. So, anybody, any other interest, anybody else have comments on this? Okay. Okay. So, do you want to continue until March 20th?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we'll continue until March 20th. We'll get some answers on this, and
So moved.
so, yeah, could I have a motion to continue?
So moved.
Moved by Suzanne, second by Jane. All those in favor of continuing, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, so carried. And that's continued at the applicant's request. Okay, very interesting case.
So, John,
Yeah.
so that kind of gets into the Fund B.
It does.
Because
It's a halfway line.
It's the same thing.
It is.
The neighbors are saying we own the fee
Because-
Two,
in Burns Ave.
you can't talk about the 40B.
Yeah,
You
okay.
probably, and you probably shouldn't be talking about this case.
All right. No, I'm not talking about it.
Okay,
I wanted to show you guys this. It's cool.
next one, is Red Cherry, applicant for Red Cherry here? Okay. I'll read the legal notice and then we'll get going in 1 second. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the Town of Walpole will hold a public hearing in the Richard Stillman Community Room, Walpole Police Department on Wednesday, March 6, 2019 at 7 p.m. on the application from Red Cherry, case number 0219, with respect to property located at 1049 Main Street, Walpole, Mass, zoning district CBD. Application is for a variance under section 6-B.1 of the zoning bylaws to allow relief from required rear yard setback, relief that was previously granted but not acted upon. Application may be viewed in the office of the Board of Appeals. So we have some correspondence here. We have from Maggie Walker, Town Engineer. Reference has been made to a plan entitled Red Cherry, 1049 Main Street by UBA Architects dated 3/25/15, from which the following comments are made. The plan submitted to this office for review were the building plans, which are not stamped by any responsible professional. Plans submitted should be stamped by an entity responsible for their preparation. 2, application requests a variance from 6B1 of the zoning bylaws, but presents no information regarding what is requested, i.e. existing setbacks, proposed setbacks, variance requested. It is strongly suggested that the applicant be required to submit a stamped plot plan which shows what is being requested. We have a letter from the Board of Health. At its February 19th, 2019 meeting, the Board of Health unanimously voted that any construction-related changes to the food establishment must be submitted to the Board of Health for review. We have a letter from Planning Board. We are in receipt of your request for comments on the above referenced application. However, there are no planning comments at this time. We have from the Fire Department, Deputy Fire Chief Paul Barry. The Fire Department has reviewed the application and plans for the above mentioned location. we have the following comments to offer the board. We offer no objection to the request, but point out that if the variance is granted by the board, construction plans will have to be submitted to the fire department for approval of the location of life safety devices. From the from the police department, the attached plans have been reviewed for any impact on public safety and quality of life. The Walpole Police Department does not have any public safety concerns in relation to traffic, in this case filed with the Town of Walpole Board of Appeals. And we have from John Charbonneau, Community Planning Director, letter. After reviewing the application for plans for the requested variance at 1049 Main Street submitted by Red Cherry Incorporated, the following comments are submitted. The application does not contain any information regarding the extent of the variance being sought, nor does it explain what is being done to the property to necessitate the required relief. Therefore, the Zoning Board of Appeals is not provided with sufficient information regarding the extent of the relief being sought. 2, the application does not contain a plot plan or site plan that depict the variance being sought. Therefore, it is impossible to determine the impact it will have on the surrounding properties. 3, the application does not contain a copy of the variance that was previously granted. 4, it is my recommendation that the application be reviewed because the lack of information for the board to consider. For further applications, I would recommend that the application with such little information be deemed incomplete at the time of submission to the department, and that a public hearing not be scheduled until sufficient information is provided. Okay, so.
You should have been writing. You should have been writing all that down.
Okay, so the abutters list has been sent out, and, okay, so why don't you, do you have a plot plan?
Yes, I have some stuff I printed out to remedy all of that. And I only have 6 copies. Can I,
We can share.
Okay.
Jane and I can share. We're good.
That is a letter, explaining what needs to be done. And then there is, a plan that, shows the actual variance that is needed. And then there is a previous decision. Stapled.
Okay, so, do you want to just, you're on TV, so if you want to just stand over there.
Yeah, I wanted to show you
Okay.
this is the actual, extension. It will be, beyond this bolded line, like everything in here will be internal, like will be like inside the building. Right. So it's gonna make it interior instead of that bolded line.
At the hearings they did.
Okay, so go, no, you were here before, so.
No, I wasn't.
Oh, you were not?
Not for this one, this is, there's just questions about it says remove existing shed, is that, connected to all one structure, or is that a separate structure?
No, it's separate, it just looks misleading there because there's no line. But we did start to act upon the previous decision by removing that, so that's actually gone.
That's gone.
Yeah, but then we just never finished before the deadline because there was just a few issues with what our decision was, what we were gonna actually do with the building, with the business, and then the deadline came upon us, and then we just need to reapply, and here we are.
When you acted on it to take that down, did you apply for a building permit to build this expansion that you're here for now, or did you just apply to demolish that?
I'm not sure what my dad did, to be completely honest.
I don't think he applied for the permit to,
Not for the building?
not yet, no, we had not come to that part of it yet.
How long ago was that?
2015, the decision, so it's been a few years,
What's going in the extension?
Storage, dry storage, extra refrigeration, pretty much like kitchen
Because the people behind you were not happy with any noise. Do you remember?
Right,
I don't know if
okay,
you
so
remember.
there wasn't,
Air conditioning, they didn't want air conditioning, they didn't,
Yeah.
I mean, there's people that are legit really close.
right,
The church owns that building and they
and
rent it
there-
out.
yes. And then the reason that the variance was approved was because they put a condition on us to put barriers.
Correct.
But the good thing is, actually, now that we're not frozen yogurt, we're not gonna have that outside vent, basically the
Refrigeration.
cooling system that was
Yeah.
creating all the noise that they had a problem with, so
Mhm.
that's actually gone.
Okay.
And there's nothing, there's no cooling system, to even make that noise anymore, which is what,
So we can condition something like that
Yeah,
there'll be
that-
no, okay.
yeah,
Because they were complaining about that.
yes.
I don't know if you were.
Yeah, yeah, and then we put a condition for building a barrier or a fence,
Yes.
or start redoing a
Yep.
fence. So yeah, there's conditions and we definitely will.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, it just strikes me that while you had relief previously, I think it's likely expired and we should evaluate this based on, so basically a new application for a variance.
Definitely a new application that we're doing the same food and everything.
Yeah.
It's a new app, yeah, it's a new app.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
but just, I'm not so sure that prior, I know that some relief was granted previously, but I think we have to start. Yeah.
So. Okay, so.
And was there anything on the roof?
Yeah, that was the system that they were worried about making all the noise because
That's what, I just remember that when I was
yeah,
there.
it's like a
But I thought there was
glycolic
something that
system
jutted out
that-
too. Wasn't it that came out? Or
Um,
maybe they just extended in the back, but the noise came from the roof, maybe that's what
It
it
came
was.
from the roof because when there was frozen yogurt machine, there has to be like a glycolic system to cool it, like a coolant.
Coolant.
And that thing is like a pump on the roof,
Mhm.
and it's usually like that like it has to be like high, so it has to be on the roof. And that's removed now because we don't have those self-serve frozen yogurt machines
Okay.
that even need it.
But on your plans, you specified relocate existing frozen yogurt dispensers to location shown typical.
No, we're not putting them in. So that plan, this one that you have,
Does not note to remove them to the plan?
this is not gonna be used. This, no. We're not relocating.
That-
No,
I
that's, we're
think
not
that's
gonna move.
from the old plan, right?
This is from, I think when we requested the variance for 2015 and we got it.
Yeah, that's.
Right.
2015.
Frozen yogurt machines are gone, we're not.
Is there an increase in seats?
Actually, there's a decrease in seats.
Decrease, good.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what I'm gonna suggest is that the plan that you've provided us is from 2015.
Yeah.
And what I'm gonna suggest is that you work with John, because John's the Community Economic Development. And his letter was the one that said that you were missing the plot plan and all this stuff.
Okay.
I think that, and if anybody has any problems with this, just speak up now, but
No.
I think it would be helpful if you met with John, come up with a plan, you know, so he understands exactly what's being proposed. We wanna make sure that there's no ventilation equipment or compressors on the roof that are gonna be detrimental to the neighbors.
Yeah.
And any changes that you have in your layout, because what you've done is you've provided us the plan from 2015, and it's not showing any changes that you've made as far as in the layout of the business.
Oh, the inside?
Yeah, because that does affect with what you're asking for in the back here. So
Okay.
we're gonna keep the hearing open, as long as the board votes that.
Great.
But that's at your request. And then you can work with John to make sure that next time you come in here, you have things set.
You won't freak,
Up to
you'll
date.
be all ready.
Up to date.
You'll be ready.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's because we thought, it was already approved, so we thought, I don't know, we just.
Once it goes away, it goes away.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And, you know, this gives you an opportunity to do it right.
Yeah, do it right.
And be a positive business in the town, so that's a good
Great,
thing.
yes,
Okay.
we'll definitely.
Okay,
So get in contact with me, we'll be in 8 to 4 tomorrow till noon on Friday,
Okay.
and next week, so just, give me a call, we can talk about what you need to do.
Great, okay, well, thank you.
And hold on, I think you're
Shall
gonna
I make
need,
a motion to continue?
for a month, but I think she's gonna need a month. I mean, what's your time frame on this?
For the extension?
Yes,
When can you get a plan done?
I'm not sure, I'm gonna have to, see, I guess. I
okay,
don't-
so why don't we put it out for a month?
Okay.
And if you need more time, just work with Amy and just, let her know, and then we can continue it again if we need to. But, coming in, yeah, we need more information as far as what's being proposed. It's not just to approve what was already granted, because things change.
Good, okay.
Okay?
So April 3rd work
Yeah.
for you?
What day is it?
It's a Wednesday.
Alright.
Okay.
Always a Wednesday.
Okay, could I have a motion
To continue.
at the applicant's request until April 3rd?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Alright, thank you.
okay. All those in
Aye.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, so carried.
The community planning and director.
Okay.
I want you to know who's this,
Yeah, I'm not going to. Okay, what else do we have?
Yeah.
Besides minutes, Monday, but Foxhill, you never asked.
Yeah, okay, we need to go back to Foxhill and
Yes.
vote on that. So, we had already discussed the parking, they made one change with the gate on the property in the decision, we just need to reference the plan.
Thank you, good night.
Right.
I do have that.
You have you can draft the
I want to,
decision.
yeah, I want to believe this. I think it's March 1st, 2019. The date is, but I have it in the office of
Okay, okay, so, the updated plan for Foxhill, this is the storage units, showing the parking. Parking, that's the only relief that they were seeking, and we were okay with that.
Yeah, I think subject to the condition that the, project built in accordance with the plans approved by the planning board.
Okay. Okay. And the date of the plans.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you have that motion?
I have it. Did someone make it and
No.
second it?
I'm
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Suzanne's up. Drew, you wanna make that motion?
Motion. Excuse me, class, pay
Okay.
attention.
To approve. To approve, okay. Motion moved by,
Subject to the conditions that,
Subject to that.
I didn't get the left and
that the project be built in accordance with the planning board plans as approved by the planning board.
501 done, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, okay, and, so, moved by Drew, second by Bob. Okay, all those in favor, 501. Okay, aye, all those in favor, aye, yeah, good. Okay,
Did anything like that?
what's that?
Any conditions or any findings or anything like that?
Oh, he.
Should I
just the
even
one-
ask that question?
Just the one condition,
Okay.
did it be built according to the plan?
Yeah, to the plan submitted to the planning board.
Gotcha.
Okay, how about minutes? Did you have a chance to review them? I reviewed the one set you sent out right after the last meeting.
I did review. Are they in here?
Yeah, you did.
Did I?
Yeah.
I really like these, so, yeah.
I just have to keep.
So, yeah, the only minutes that we had to review was January 16th. It was
It's like a
one of our shortest meetings of all time.
Right.
liberal magazines all over Rhode Island and Cape.
You good? And Suzanne was out of those.
That's probably right. I remember.
She's not.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Behind it.
Okay, could I have a motion to accept the minutes of January 16th, 2019?
So moved.
Moved by Rick,
Second.
second by Jane. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried. So those, that was also, did you abstain?
Yeah, 'cause I
Yeah,
didn't read.
Okay, okay, so,
I don't know if I was here, time ran out.
501.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, anything else for the board tonight?
that was it.
Okay, board members, anything?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, could I have a,
Question on the 40B, how many people?
Let's see.
okay,
Thank you,
yeah,
sir.
Because
so,
there's 6 of them.
so, 40B. A 40B requires a majority vote.
Right.
And it will be the regular board members that are sitting on that. So right now, we have the regular board members plus Drew as an alternate. So these cases can take some time, so everybody please stay healthy.
Yeah.
Don't go on
And,
vacation.
Drew,
Don't go on vacation.
you're on the bench, but ready to step in at any time on this.
You can ask questions and all that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
while
Oh,
it's just,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally speak.
Formally vote on it.
I had a question about it. So are we allowed to talk to the building inspector on our own
Oh, yeah.
about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Individually.
Yes,
Yeah,
individually,
individual,
right.
yeah.
So, we didn't set up a site visit, so.
I said, I leaned over to Jane and I said, we can't
It's like 2
really,
feet of snow at the end
it won't
there.
happen right now.
Okay, so, but we will do
We
a
should, yeah.
a site visit, yeah.
Yeah.
We did
oh,
that before
absolutely.
I
several
went down there,
times.
did you?
Okay.
Yeah, I went with you.
Yeah, that's right,
Yeah.
Sue and I went.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was about 100 degrees.
Unless there's anything else,
Yeah.
could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Jane,
Second.
second by Suzanne. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried. Okay, good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Aye.